Hello again. Essay here. How many people have heard the phrase, diversity is our strength? Well, if you're, just a regular Joe on the street corner, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Have you been dipping your toes and maybe your pinky finger into the body politics or the whimsy of people in these various state houses? Then you probably know a little more. Now, of course, there's no problem with diversity. Diversity is a good thing. Anyone's ever eaten a fruit cocktail knows there's a lot of diversity there. You have your apples, your peaches, your grapes, and a few Mendocino cherries mixed in for color. So there you go. But how does that work with societies? Well, the funny thing about societies is that human societies, on a nation state scale, tend not to be very diverse. Indeed, if you go to places like Japan, Korea, China, for example, not much diversity there at all. It's all basically Chinese, Koreans, and Japanese there. And then you have places like the United States, which is known officially as a heterogeneous society, where you have people from all over the place, all living within the same borders. And yet, in the United States, we have a binding culture, basically that was born out of the original American Revolution. Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, John Hancock, and all the rest of them. And for many, many, many years, that's worked well for us. Doesn't matter if you're from Timbuktu or Toledo, in Spain, that is. Once you come to America, you learn the language, you learn the culture, and you fit right in. But in recent decades, that paradigm has been shifting, and not in a good way. And in some places, it shifted a lot more than it should. Because anyone who's my age is familiar with places like Little Tokyo and Chinatown, and in some cases Greek town or Little Albania. And you say Albania, yeah. Now, of course, these little microcosms of various cultures, they're small, and they don't make too much waves. In other words, you go to these places, you see a lot of people speaking language of the old home country, but they also tend to be bilingual. They also speak the English like everybody else. But some people think even that shouldn't be allowed. That these people should not, what's the cliche, become part of the larger culture. That they should somehow strictly maintain the culture of the old country, hell or high water. Now, of course, people from certain cultures, like for example, the Hasidic Jewish crowd, those people are very, very clannish. No joke. Anyone's been to the Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, believe me, it's almost like walking back in time to a period to a time and place that doesn't really exist anymore, namely 19th century Eastern Europe. All the women are bundled up in their little scarves, and everyone's wearing the black hats and everything, and some got their little curly cues, and everyone's speaking Yiddish. Of course, some people also speak English, but when they're all amongst themselves, they're all speaking Yiddish. So there you go. But anyway, this video is not so much about the ins and outs of cultural diversity. It's about what's been going on in England recently. Now, Paul Joseph Watson, he's got a video of some recent revelations that people in England could not believe. And let's just say this. Some of you who have been paying attention probably wouldn't be surprised at all by these revelations. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
It took an eternity, but the truth has finally been revealed. The true cost of what mass migration has inflicted on the UK. Official statistics. Foreigners living in the UK are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested for sexual offences than British citizens. That's odd, because all the campaigns highlighting the issue of sexual harassment look like this.
Sweetheart, you alright? You alright, yeah? Oi, look at the body on that.
And for all crimes, foreign nationals were arrested at twice the rate of British citizens. The top arrest rates by nationality. Soaring in at number 1 is Albania, a country starved of genuine achievements, but this is probably not the title they'd wished for. And then Afghanistan, Iraq, Algeria, Congo, Morocco, Somalia, Eritrea, Iran, all reinforcing the maxim that diversity is indeed our greatest strength. And don't forget, these figures don't even include migrant background individuals. You include those and the numbers are likely to be bordering on catastrophic. 48 nationalities living in the UK have a higher arrest rate than British citizens. And when you focus on certain regions, the situation is even more alarming. In Greater London, 39.2% of sex crime arrests are foreign nationals. In the West Midlands, it's 38.8%. In Derbyshire, it's 44.8%. And in the City of London, it's a whopping 66.9%. More than 2/3 of arrests for sexual offences are foreign nationals. And these numbers are only going to get worse as we import close to 1 million net migrants every year. The thing about those statistics coming out today about foreigners and sex crimes is that the British state already had that data, and yet the flow of foreigners coming in only ever increased. It can no longer be denied. Mass migration has made the UK increasingly unsafe for women and girls. The statistics only underline what women who've experienced that strange form of cultural enrichment have been warning us about for years.
I've been living in London for 10 years. I've also lived in multiple other countries around the world. Never before have I felt as unsafe as I do now. When I walk down the street, I'm increasingly being leered at. I'm increasingly being followed like I'm going around the souks of Morocco. And it's not, visibly to me anyway, people who were born and bred here. It isn't. And it's very difficult because we're not allowed to talk about it because, oh my gosh, that breaks taboo. Oh, you're a racist if you say this. I'm sorry. A lot of women going about their daily business feel that their safety is being directly threatened by people who are coming from different cultures. And this needs to be discussed because I've had enough. All my other female friends have had enough. When I put this stuff online, the number of comments online from other women saying they've had enough and saying thank you for talking about this.
Call me crazy, but I'm starting to think that Deliveroo and Uber Eats weren't worth it. These new crime stats emerged as controversy exploded over the Labour government's refusal to support a new inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. Now Keir Starmer, having been pounded on the issue by Elon Musk for over a week, essentially said that anyone concerned about the industrial-scale grooming, exploitation and rape of young girls by predominantly Pakistani men is basically just a far-right bigot.
And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right, then that affects politics.
Starmer's not exactly keen on investigating the subject, given that under his leadership the CPS failed to prosecute many of these grooming gang ringleaders.
Critics would say it's not a far-right bandwagon issue, Prime Minister. The ICSA report looked at just 6 towns where grooming gangs were operating. Rochdale got 1 mention in 400 pages. We have found at GB News court reports showing gangs operating in 50 towns across the country. Are you certain, as Prime Minister, it's not going on today? Why don't you order a national public inquiry to join the dots between 50 towns, not 6, barely mentioned in the J report? Are you afraid it might expose failings as your role as a DPP? And that's why Elon Musk says, were you complicit in the rape of Britain? You have not. To go after the far right on this does not go to the heart of the problem.
Starmer's CPS failed to prosecute, despite in some cases literally finding the DNA of the accused in the victim's underwear.
Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible, they're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves.
The absolute nerve of Starmer to claim that people are just pretending to be outraged about this and they don't really care about the victims, when Labour councils were directly involved in covering up the scandal from the late 90s onwards, when Labour's cover-up ensured that victims of the Rotherham grooming gang and others were ignored or silenced, because the government thought preserving the image of the UK as a successful multicultural society was more important than obtaining justice for the victims. In some instances, authorities even sided with the abusers because prosecuting them would have been seen as politically incorrect. In some cases, police even arrested the parents of the girls who were being trafficked and abused. And the Labour Prime Minister Gordon Brown allegedly told police to deliberately ignore the issue because the girls had chosen to be abused.
My name is Leon Muller. I'm an ex-police officer. Former Chief Crown Prosecutor Mr. Nazir Afwaz stated in an interview to the BBC Radio 4 that in 2008 the Labour government under Prime Minister Gordon Brown and Home Secretary Jackie Smith sent a circular to all police forces in this country saying that as far as these young girls who are being exploited in town, we believe that they have made an informed choice about their sexual behaviour. And therefore, it is not for you police officers to get involved in.
They essentially covered it all up because they were scared of how the general public would react if the full horror of it was revealed. And the full horror is almost beyond comprehension. That's why they're blocking a new inquiry, because they were complicit in it from the very beginning. And now they're trying to deflect the anger by monstering Elon Musk for merely talking about it. People are demanding a new inquiry, but what exactly will that accomplish? Another opportunity for the political establishment to cover it all up? When will the conversation shift to re-migration, to sending home the 10,000 foreign criminals currently in UK prisons? Sweden's doing it. They now have a net outflow of migration. And just over the weekend, the German government signalled it was about to do it too, re-migrating nearly 500,000 Syrians who are not in employment and are on state benefits. If two of the most liberal countries on the planet when it comes to open borders can change course, can turn to re-migration when it's the only feasible solution to the utter mess that's been visited on us as a result of mass migration. When polls show a full 70% of Brits think migration is too high, why can't we do it?
Okay, you saw that. Now, of course, some of you saying, oh, well, at least those perverts got arrested. Yeah. But the thing is, the fact that the Labour Party, basically moved heaven and earth, and a few stars, I might add, to basically hush it up and cover it up because it would make, cultural diversity look bad. I mean, it's unconscionable. It's completely unconscionable. I mean, there's no excuse for it. I mean, the fact that these people were so worried that the general public in England was going to find out that, diversity is not our strength, that we let in too many perverts into our country from all these places overseas, primarily the Muslim countries. But, yeah. And how these perverts started preying on young girls. Well, and then they were worried that the public might object to that. Are you kidding me? The public should object to that. Now, of course, some of you right now are probably saying, all immigrants are bad. No. I ain't going down the Mark Dice rabbit hole, okay? Because I got no problem with people from overseas coming here. I mean, look at Vivek Saswamy, for example. His family came here from India, and it wasn't for his complexion. You would swear he was born and raised here. So there you go. Of course, some of you say, but he was born and raised here. Yeah. But he easily could have been born and raised in Mumbai, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, his family assimilated. Yeah. And wait for it. You ready? Look at Kamala Harris, and you say, "Oh, please, do we have to?" Hey! I'm just using her example as a point of reference, because her family came here from not only India, but also from Jamaica, and they came here. They, got wise to the groove. They assimilated, and her father later became a college professor. Yeah, too bad the brains didn't pass down from his genes down to her genes, but I'm not going to get into that. But then you say, so what's going on in England? Well, apparently what's going on in England is you have groups of people from, I'm sorry to say this, Muslim countries. Because if you saw in Watson's video, he also finked out Albania, which people tend to not realize is technically a Muslim country, even though people in Saudi Arabia wouldn't look at the Albanians as like real Muslims. But I'm not going to get into that. But yeah. And of course, when they brought those people into England, these people brought all their bad habits with them. And therefore you saw and as you saw in Watson's video, you saw what you saw. And of course, as you saw in Watson's video, old Starmer, Sir Starmer, he's sitting there trying to play a game of hide the football, trying to say, "Oh, you can't talk about that. You're just a right winger." Oh, be quiet, fool. You just got caught with your hands in the till. Now you're trying to make excuses while your hands in the till. And of course, as you saw in Watson's video, the reason why old Sir Starmer got his short and curlies all tied up in knots was because Elon Musk called him out. And of course, old Elon, well, let's just say this, he's got his own issues, because even though Watson did mention it in his video, Elon, I mean, hey, the guy, he knows a lot about shooting rockets into space, but doesn't mean that he knows about everything all the time, everywhere, no how, no way. I mean, the guy is not omnipotent, okay? And I wouldn't ask Elon Musk how to make a spinach souffle either, okay? Yeah. The guy has his wheelhouse, and more importantly, he has things that are outside his wheelhouse. And of course, in the case of, I saw in Watson's video, when he called out Starmer, he wasn't just Starmer he called out. He also called out Nigel Farage. And you say, wait, what? And you say, yeah. And you know why? Because he, basically, DM Nigel Farage about Tony Robertson. And you say, what's that do about the price of tea in China? I'm getting to that part. Because anyone who's familiar with Tony Robinson, I don't have to explain it to you, but the guy, and then I'm talking about the guy who gives people pep talks. This is a different Robertson. Yeah, the guy's a bit of a rabble-rouser in England. In fact, you could say he's the English equivalent of Nick Fuentes. And anyone who's familiar with Nick Fuentes, I don't have to explain it to you. But this Robinson guy, he's on the same level. Only difference is he's a little bit pale, a whiter shade of pale, if you know what I mean. And Nigel Farage, responding to Elon Musk, said, "Nah, I don't think I want to have Robinson as part of my clique." And man, the Elon Musk get his ass on his shoulders. And then he had the nerve to say that Nigel Farage should step down from the UK Reform Party. And now you say, what does that do with tea in China? I'm getting that part. Because Elon Now, some of you saying, "Hey, at least he's on on the side of the angels," and I'm thinking, yeah, but it wasn't always like that. Remember, Elon, he voted for Biden back in 2020, and he's not really conservative. He's basically an old school liberal. It's just that as far as Elon's concerned, the left got so Looney Tunes that he couldn't, vote for them anymore. So, but anyway, when Elon called out old Sir Starmer, he also called out Nigel Farage, but only because Elon got butthurt because Nigel Farage basically told Elon, "You're barking up the wrong tree," because Robertson, he's a rabble rouser, but he's also a loudmouth. In other words, the guy has no filter. And if you're trying to, stand on a street corner and with a bullhorn and basically get people's attention, then Robertson is the guy you go to. But if you're trying to get people's votes to get up in Parliament and perhaps even the Prime Ministership, then Robertson is someone you probably don't want amongst your allies. Okay. And apparently Elon got butthurt over that. Now you say, what does that do with the price of tea in China? I'm getting that part, okay? Because even though this video started out talking about, how people go too far with diversity, that can also happen with diversity of thought. And you say, what? Yeah. Because, for example, people like Elon, smart guy, let's not pretend he's smart. Wealthy guy, oh yeah, he's got $100 bills up the wazoo. Let's not pretend, okay? But doesn't mean they know the right answer to every question. And you say, so what? Well, I'm getting to that part. Because even though Paul Jones didn't really mention that little flame war that broke out between Nigel Farage and Elon, he probably should have. Because while Elon may currently be in league with Trump and his homies, doesn't mean he's going to be there forever. Because Trump's not going to be around forever. And it makes you wonder what's going to happen in 2028 and beyond. I mean, what if Elon has a falling out with Vance? Because Vance was likely going to run for president in 2028. Let's not pretend, okay? But of course, he slips on banana peel and then, he's not going to run then. But yeah, let's just presume that, Vance does run in 2028. And what if Elon and Vance have a falling out? Now, of course, some of you have been paying attention to Elon know that Elon, because he has control of Twitter, he has a very big megaphone. Even bigger than Robertson's, okay? And of course, some of you say, oh, well, as long as he says the right things, it's all good, right? Yeah. And people felt the same way about Jack Dorsey back when he first created Twitter. And of course, we saw how that went off the rails. Therefore, when you look at Elon, you have to ask the question, is it really a good idea to have someone that wealthy and that powerful basically pulling the strings when it comes to political discourse? Probably not. Because anyone who's familiar with George Soros knows what can happen when you have super wealthy, super powerful people pulling the strings in the background. Sort of like the Wizard of Oz. When Toto pulled back the curtain and showed the wizard pulling the levers and to basically fool the people of the Emerald City to think that Oz, the great and powerful, was this all-powerful being, when nothing more, it was just a sad, scared little man with a big mask and a loud voice. And therefore, when you see what happened between Elon and Nigel Farage, that's just a foretaste of what could happen in the future. Because what if Elon, hypothetically gets into it with Vance and then uses his big megaphone to sabotage Vance's chances to become president in 2028, and then we end up with, oh my God, President Gruesome Newsom. And of course, anyone who's been in California knows how much of a great manager of California's affairs Newsom has been. Yeah, he hasn't. So then you say, so what? Are you kidding? Anyone who knows anything knows about world history knows that there was a time back in the past where super wealthy, super powerful people were pulling the strings for everything. And it wasn't a fun time. Indeed, you could call it the time of Pharaoh, Ramses II, or the time of the Chinese emperors, like the original Han Dynasty. Or, wait for it, the time of Commodus and Caligula. Yeah, the time of the Roman emperors. Because remember, all those people I just mentioned, nobody voted them in. They took power. Why? Because they had a lot of wealth and they had a lot of moxie, and they basically seized the reins of power. No joke. Now, of course, some of you saying, "Oh, but Elon, he's no Pharaoh, he's no Commodus." You sure about that? Because, for example, how many people are familiar with Louis XIII? And you say, who's that? He used to be the king of France, but don't get caught in the weeds. Well, according to Alexander Dumas, and you say, who the hell is that? Yeah, the guy who wrote Three Musketeers. But anyway, I'm getting to the point. He famously said in his books that the king of France was not really in charge of France. It was Cardinal Richelieu. And you say, Cardinal? Yeah. Anyone who's read Three Musketeers knows who Cardinal Richelieu is. But he was a real guy. And even though he wasn't king, and he was just basically a Monsignor who represented the Pope, he basically was pulling the strings that were basically making King Louis do the dance. You get it now? Now, of course, some people are accusing old Elon doing that right now with Trump. And so far, Trump, he's got ego and personality to spare. But like I said, what happens after Trump leaves office and Elon's still there? Yeah, precisely. Because as I mentioned with George Soros, he was doing that a lot. Remember all those damn DAs that George Soros was supporting? Yeah. They were basically, George was a puppet master, and all those people that he basically bought and paid for in all those various municipalities were basically doing the dance. Now, of course, some of you saying, oh, yeah, oh. Now, of course, despite all the rigmarole happening in England over that diversity, or lack of diversity, or should say, playing game of hide the football over perverts who are not very diverse. The fact that all of that came out at all was because the fact that Elon was getting on Sir Starmer's last nerve using Twitter. Now you get it? Now, Sir Starmer, strangely enough, doesn't appear to be a puppet of Elon, nor do he appears to be want to. But what happens after Sir Starmer is no longer Prime Minister? What if Elon, like George Soros, pulls the strings to get someone into the Prime Ministership? And then, like George Soros, Elon is in the background pulling the strings, making that prime minister do the dance. See the problem? Yeah. Now, of course, anyone who remembers the Three Musketeers knows that Richelieu eventually got his. And of course, anyone is seeing what's happening right now with George Soros sees the same thing. But unfortunately, there's still Elon. Now, of course, some of you are saying, but Elon, he seems to be a good dude, and he seems to be doing the right thing. Yeah, for now. But as I mentioned, with him getting into an argument with Nigel Farage over that Robertson guy, it shows that just because you're wealthy and powerful doesn't mean you know the answers to everything. And the fact that Elon, refused to consider Nigel Farage's opinion when it comes to who he should not ally himself with when it comes to English politics, shows that Elon does not know everything. And that can be, and thus Elon could end up making the same mistakes that George Soros did. In other words, using his wealth and power to influence political events based on fuzzy math or fuzzy thinking. And indeed, anyone who's been paying attention to all the rigmarole that George Soros has caused in the United States over the last 20 plus years knows that that clown for too long have been supporting various people in these various municipalities based on fuzzy thinking. And of course, as we all know, that resulted in a whole bunch of havoc and mayhem in multiple zip codes all over the United States, and indeed outside the United States. Why you think so many countries now don't want anything to do with George Soros and his various NGOs in various points on the map. And therefore, if you're paying attention, now you get it. Because it's one thing if you have someone wealthy and powerful pulling the strings that's basically aligned with your worldview. But then what happens when they're not? Yeah, that's right. Someone like that is no longer a benefit. They're a detriment to you. And I'm glad that Nigel Farage pushed back against Elon Musk. That's a good thing. Because we don't need any more puppet masters in the body politic. Now, of course, some of you are saying, but this was about Starmer and those damn perverts. Yeah, I know, but this video is actually about a wider issue. Because while Elon may be okay for now, helping Trump and pushing his agenda, we should, as a society, not allow people like Elon Musk rule the roost. Because as I said, back in the past, we used to have people like that. Like Agamemnon. And you say, who? Yeah, well, if you ever read the Iliad, you already know, so I don't have to explain to you. And therefore, if we allow people like Elon Musk to have too much pull in the body politic, superseding, universal suffrage, we are going to go back to those bad old days of Pharaoh and Caligulan Rome. And anyone who's ever read a history book knows that that's not a place you want to live in. Because those places, that time period, definitely was not Disneyland in any sense of the word. Period. Well, that's all I gotta say about all Sir Starmer and his bucket of poo, and how Elon Musk basically shine a spotlight on it. Not so much because he basically not so much because I think he wanted to do the right thing, but I think he just wanted to place some influence on the prime minister. Okay, and that's my opinion.